Okay, welcome to the Thought Garden on the Air, where we explore the stories, strategies, and skills that shape the most compelling personal brands and talented professionals today. I'm your host, Alexis Quintal, CEO and owner of Rosarium. We are a personal branding and public relations firm dedicated to helping entrepreneurs, business leaders, and influencers monetize and elevate their personal brands. So, thank you for joining us for season 2. We are now expanding our focus beyond authors and into the broader world of personal branding. So, whether you're an entrepreneur, influencer, or an expert in your industry, and you'd like to build your unique narrative, we're here to amplify your voice and give you some tips. So, today I've got a really great guest. We're speaking with Bernadette Pello. She's the co founder and president of the Board of Livingstone Schools, Inc., CSO of Florida Trade Academy, CEO of Signature Education Management Services, and president of the board for South Bay Academy. That was just one long sentence of all these amazing roles and businesses that you've built. You're a powerhouse in education, workforce development, and leadership. And I really commend you for all of your years of experience and community honors. So welcome, Bernadette.
Yeah. So
Let's start off. Yeah, let's start off with your journey. I mean, how did you get to where you are today?
sure. Well, thank you, Alexis, for having me today. I'm honored. Yeah. So my journey has been a long road. Moved to Florida in 1994, and I worked for a Fortune 500 staffing company when I was in New York. And the last big snowstorm kind of propelled us to move to Florida. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I had some
Same.
family here already, and so I took a transfer with my company. So I came to Florida, with my job, and I honestly thought that I would be there forever. Moving to Florida put me into a bigger market than when I was in New York because I'm from a very small area in upstate, and so I had a lot more
Okay.
opportunities and had a few promotions like really early on of moving to Florida, and I thought I'd be there for a very long time. My husband took a job at a private Christian school here in the Brandon area. And he turned away about 20 students a year because he was the only one that had a small program for kids with any type of, unique ability. And so he came home one day after the last mom cried, what am I going to do with my son? Nobody wants him. And he said, we need to start a school. And we both resigned from our jobs. Our families thought we were crazy. Like I said, I worked for a really solid company and I was well on my way, to more
Yeah.
promotions. And we took out a second mortgage. We started with about 30 students and 4 of us on staff, and we started Livingstone Academy. And, that was about 22 years ago that we started. And
Wow.
now we have 4 locations plus Florida Trade Academy. We have almost 100 employees, almost 500 students. So our families thought we were crazy, but our, little risk paid off.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you had many challenges throughout the years, right? Starting something from scratch and something.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What challenges?
Yeah, so I think some of the biggest challenges were, going from that corporate security, right? Because I knew I had a job, I was guaranteed the paycheck. I knew I was on my way, climbing that ladder. And when we started the school, okay, what if we don't get enough students? Like there might be, am I going to get paid all the time, or am I going to have to worry about, paying the bills and make sure everybody else was paid? And so it definitely was a big risk, and especially at the time, we had our son, who's now 30, was little at the time, so it
Yeah.
wasn't just the 2 of us anymore. We had a family to worry about.
Yeah.
So it was a big risk to even start it, and the other big obstacle that came along with that was transferring the skills, all the lessons and the experience that I learned as a corporate employee to nonprofit. And I had a
Mm.
little hard time adjusting, is it the same, nonprofit world? Do I need to give everything away? So it was
Hmm.
really different in how I treated staff. It was a little bit of a hard transition for me until I realized it's still a business. I still have to
Hmm.
make sure everything gets paid. It still has to run and be
Yeah.
healthy. So that's how I have to treat it.
Right. Exactly. I could see where that mindset shift though can come into play.
Absolutely.
And
Mhm.
yeah, and even personally as well, you went obviously from corporate to starting my own business.
Mhm.
And I think the one thing I liked about corporate is I learned what not to do.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Right? Like you can take the good parts and then you can leave the bad and you can create
Right.
your own culture and
Absolutely.
have more,
Much more
more,
control.
yeah,
Mhm.
have more control.
Much more control.
So was there anyone that inspired you or mentored you along this path?
Lots of people. So definitely blessed in that department. I had a manager who was mine when I moved to Florida, and
Mhm.
I still use a lot of the lessons that she taught me. And she was great. She had worked her way up. She didn't go to school, and she worked her way up in the company. So I thought, goodness, if she can get into that vice president, then there's hope for the rest of us. But she taught us so many good lessons, and I try to use them today, even when she had to correct us. And I did get corrected, here and there, because none of us are perfect, right? And she
Yeah.
would correct me, and then it would be done. I didn't have to hear about it. So she never held anything over us. And
Mm.
I always really try to do that, because I do have to correct people. But I just
Yeah.
really look to her as such a great leader. I have
Mm.
more recent leaders. I mean, Dottie
Yeah.
Gerber's.
Yeah.
She's somebody that I still say, even though she's not that much older than me, I want to be like her when I grow up,
Yeah.
making such an impact in the community. And then,
Right.
of course, my family. My husband and I started this together. He came from much more humble beginnings than what I came from. And so to see what we have built,
Mm.
like that inspires me.
Mhm. Mhm. I love that. And so shifting over to obviously, we talk a lot about personal branding. So how
Mhm.
do you define your personal brand and how has that evolved along your journey?
Yeah, so tough question for me, because again, I am coming up on a big birthday here in a couple of weeks, and I think back then,
Mhm.
early in my career, we didn't have personal brands. I was attached to that corporation. The corporation had a certain image. Like even our casual
Mhm.
Friday was still no pants. And I always had a jacket on, so way different.
Yeah.
From what we can get away with now. But I didn't think about how my personal persona really impacted the corporation, because I was so corporate. So it was
Mhm.
difficult. It's difficult for me to answer.
Well, what about today? How do you define your personal brand today?
Yeah, so today I think that obviously I'm much more aware of it, thanks to people like you, educating the rest of us on it.
Right.
But I think, looking back, I think that all the lessons that I've learned and the things that have been important to me, like obviously integrity, professionalism, that was ingrained in me, right from the start in my corporate position. I
Mhm.
get people that do call me for help, they call me for advice, call me for mentoring, and the
Mhm.
words that they use when they say, I'm calling you because, you're authentic, you are professional, I trust you. And those are things that you want to hear, right? That's how I
Mhm.
want to be known.
Yes, of course.
Mhm.
And so great. Well, that perfectly segues to how did you build that platform as someone who's trusted and authentic? I mean, what kind of strategies did you use that maybe could be helpful for someone else?
Sure. I think it's hard work. And maybe it seems like such a simple thing to say, but when I have some people come and ask for help now, they've been in their company 1 or 2 years, and they want to get right out of operations and just start out, like not doing the work. And I didn't get out of the work, per se,
Mhm.
until like 15 years into school. I've done every
Yeah.
job from cleaning classrooms, aftercare, to teaching, to principal, every position I've done.
Yeah.
So it definitely takes hard work. You have to be willing to do that. And I think that you do need to be trustworthy. You need to over deliver, and you need to, if you say it, you're going to need to do it. And one of the things that both my husband and I believe in is you do what's right. It doesn't matter who's right. So even if we
Mhm.
make a mistake, if we mess up, anything like that, it doesn't matter who's right. We have to find the solution that is right.
Right. Right. And that's so true too about how you should be prepared to work hard and basically fill every role
Exactly.
as an entrepreneur, right? You're the
Right.
janitor, you know, you're
I made a
whatever it is
decision
you're cleaning.
long
Yeah.
ago, and even in the organizations that I serve, whether it was the women's organizations or the boards, I made a decision a long time ago. Nobody's going to outwork me, and there might be people smarter, there might be people more qualified, but I'm going to get in there and do everything I can.
Right. Yeah, that
Mhm.
effort goes a long way. You could
It
be the
does.
smartest person in the room, but if you aren't willing to put in effort and you kind of expect things to just come easy, right? That's not going to be, that's
It's
not going to
it,
work in the long
exactly.
term, maybe in the short term, but
Yeah.
probably not
Yeah.
long term. So that's amazing. So you're someone who's led organizations, you've built institutions from the ground up. So at this point now, how are you giving back to the next generation of leaders?
Yeah, that's my goal right now as I transition into the latter part of working years, I guess, even though to me there's no such thing as retirement. Um, but what I want to do now, like I think that all good leaders should want the next generation coming up to be better than them. Like I don't want to help
Mm.
someone and when they get close to my success, like stop them, because I want that
Mhm.
I want that honor. I want that whatever. No, I want to know that I'm a part of somebody else building something bigger, building something better, improving something. Like that's what I want to see the next generation of leaders. And I think to help, it's really just being available.
Mm, okay. So maybe this could be a piece of advice for listeners is just reach out, maybe see if you're willing to take a Zoom call or meet for coffee or
Absolutely. Yeah,
right. Okay. That's great. So
absolutely.
just allowing yourself to be available. That's
Yeah, I mean,
perfect.
a lot of the lessons I've learned, I can help. This is what I did, didn't work out so well, right? So,
Yeah.
try something else.
Hmm. Yeah. Those mistakes are going to be made, but maybe you can help someone else not make that mistake. They'll
Absolutely.
probably make a different mistake instead, but that's
Yeah.
okay. There's no way you can get through it without making a mistake. So
No, no. I make them every day.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, are there any values that have like really been just consistent across your leadership approach in all these different like organizations and not only businesses but boards?
Yeah, again, I think I'm probably going to sound like a little bit of a broken record, because I do think that the most important things in business is the hard work, it's
Hmm.
the integrity, and to be honest and authentic. Those are the people that I want to do business with. So that's what I want to be able to give back. Like, I think that if you sit down with me, if you talk with me, if you want to watch and model with me, right? Because I have a lot of people that will ask me, like, can I spend the day with you? Can I walk through to see
Hmm.
what it looks like? Um,
Yeah,
I'm pretty real, and
yeah.
I don't think I try to pretend to be anything that I'm not. So it's definitely the integrity and the hard work. If I say something, I want it to mean something and I want to be able
Hmm.
to deliver.
Hmm. Yeah, which is why it's fine to be a broken record because if not, you're just kind of pulling out of air of things that
Right,
aren't
right.
real to you. So I can see, yeah, that overlaps in a lot of the different aspects
Mhm.
of our conversation, but also your professional life.
Exactly. Exactly.
So what do you think of when you hear collaboration? Has that been a role in your kind of in
It's
your
it's
journey?
it's definitely one of my favorite words. I
Yay, me
I
too.
I love collaborating. I love when, and even if it's not my collaboration, but I want to be part of a team. I want to hear from other people. I just talked to somebody recently, and they're thinking about leaving the company that they're with because all of the
Mhm,
ideas come from this top level, and everyone else is supposed to execute. I couldn't run
mhm.
my companies like that.
Yeah.
I want to hear ideas from everybody to, whether they're big ideas, small ideas. I mean, we had a problem with our car line one time at one of our locations. And I'm like, whoever
Mhm.
can solve this, I'll give you a prize, right? And one of our teachers came up with, well, all we need to do is tweak this and this. I'm like, okay, well, how come I didn't think about that? But
Wow.
thank you,
Yeah.
because you want ideas from everybody and to see, especially from the people that are doing the job, every single day. Um, but when it's not even like my schools or my the educational pieces, whether it's the women's groups or the boards, like I love to introduce people that I know, I want to introduce people together that I know can get together, they can collaborate and solve an issue or come up with a great idea, or some new product. And I
Yeah.
love watching that. I love when I introduce people, they connect, and then that collaboration starts. Like that just fills me, that fills me
Right.
with joy when I can do that.
Yeah. And you're very good at introducing people and
Thank
helping
you.
those connections happen. So I can see why, that's a
I
passion of yours.
I don't know how many calls I get every week. Like, do you know somebody who? And 99.9% of the time, I do. And I love
Yeah,
that. I
right.
love to be able to
And that's
share
right.
and push business, to other people's companies.
Yeah. And like you said, since you do really have this kind of persona of like trust and authenticity, I
Mhm.
think that also helps you attract people like that too. So,
I think so.
you can make those connections and people know like she wouldn't have made that introduction or referral if you didn't truly
Exactly.
believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna introduce somebody or recommend somebody that I don't trust, that I have not done business with it. Even, on the flip side, I've had some people that have disappointed me, right? We all
Yeah.
have, whether in
Yeah.
business and personal, but I'm careful. I don't talk negatively about them, but
Yeah.
I won't recommend them.
Right.
You
Exactly.
Mhm.
So were there any moments where you had to pivot or adapt significantly throughout your career?
Yeah, I think honestly, just going back to coming out of corporate, going from the corporate employee, to becoming an entrepreneur, obviously that was a big thing. And then I think, since we've had the schools, again, we started over 22 years ago. I mean, you were at our 20th. It was a
Yeah.
milestone that I never imagined getting to. We started so
Amazing.
small. I mean, now the largest we are the largest organization in the state of Florida that does what we do for just
Wow.
because of the population that we serve.
Yeah.
And both my
Right.
husband and I serve on other boards. He serves on, state boards for education. And people have called us from out of state asking us, how we do what we do. And I think
Wow.
growing from that one location to two locations and then to three and four, it takes a lot. It's a lot of energy, and you want to make
Yeah.
sure that when you're growing healthy, right? We just don't want to grow numbers, but it's really not making an impact in the community. And then I think
Right.
our last bit of pivoting was going from Livingstone to FTA. We've had these K
Mhm.
through 12 schools, but then we realized, what about our students that are not going to college? Because college is not for everybody. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of jobs in the construction, in the trades, in different fields that our students do not have to go into significant debt, but they're going
Mhm.
to earn a really good wage, right? There's options. And a lot of our tradespeople become entrepreneurs. And so we wanted
Mhm.
to be a part of, we just don't want to stop at that. Okay, we graduated these seniors, now let them go and figure it out. I
Mhm.
had a meeting today with our seniors. These are the opportunities. These are the things that you can do. And even if, you come back and see me next year, a year after you graduate, I'm still invested, right? I want you to
Yeah.
find gainful employment. We want to help raise, good citizens. And so I
Yeah.
think coming from that transitioning and pivoting from just the high school to the post-secondary, it's been a little bit different for us.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, your business has a very specific flow of growing and adding new locations, but what would be your advice for other business owners, that are just going through those kinds of growing pains, right? I mean, it's a
Well,
good problem to have, but it's hard.
sure, sure. Well, I think, if you're just looking now, you've got an idea and I want to start something, like look for
Mhm.
something that is find the need in the community and then work to fill that, right? That's going to help you be successful. And, I was lucky enough that, both my husband and I did this together. This has been our journey,
True.
but we
Yeah.
both knew that if it didn't work, we could go back. We could find jobs, right? We had
Yeah,
skill.
it's always
So
an option.
take a chance on yourself, but make sure you have that safety net. Like I said, we were in a
Mhm.
good place. We only had one kid. It's going to be different for somebody that has big family, or that doesn't have the spouse, that's supportive.
Yeah.
So you really
Right.
need to make sure that you do have that safety net. But I wish that I wish I took a chance on myself, sooner. Um, and I'm thinking, how much further would we be? I even look back at, I hated networking and stuff in the beginning. All I wanted to do is I
Yeah.
just wanted to do the tasks. And
Yeah.
now I love it.
Yeah.
So again, you have to get out there. You have to talk about your business, because nobody is going to represent your business better than you.
Right. Exactly. That's amazing. So you recently told me that you're going to be stepping back from day-to-day operations at Livingstone, though you're still going to be involved, but what's inspired this kind of next chapter that you're entering?
Yeah, I think a lot of different things, all kind of happening at once. We've done this for 22 years. We have staff that can lead the organization. I think we have really good leaders in place, and they're okay. They're okay without us there every day. I'll still be
Yeah.
talking about us in the community. I'll
Yep.
still be doing that. I'll be there to support, but I think we're ready to let people go ahead and let's see what you can do, next to bring this organization further. Like I said, I've got a big birthday. I'm going to be 60 pretty soon. I've had an official job since I was 16, but started babysitting at 10. I wasn't a stay-at-home mom, and I think I'm ready to. I think I'm ready to, lighten up a little bit. Again, it's not full retirement. I'm going to
Right.
concentrate on Florida Trade Academy. Our
Okay.
management company, SEM, Signature Education Management Services, we've had several private schools across the state that want us to step in and help them with their HR, with their marketing, with their policies and procedures. And we can do that.
Right.
Anything that I can still do I want to make an impact. That's it. I want to make an impact, but I want to do something different.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to do something
Yeah,
different.
no, 22 years is a long time. And you've created this legacy, and now is your opportunity to keep building on that, right? See how you can grow that legacy, but maybe even help other people start, their
Exactly.
own versions. Yeah.
Exactly. I like a plan. And so my last official day, with school is going to be May 30th. And I'm like, what am I going to do June 1st? I need a plan. And my
Yeah.
friend said, like, try a few things, like, like let's see what happens, what comes to you. And at first that stressed me out. And now I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
because I want to make sure it's right. I want to be
Yeah.
involved in an organization, and it's going to be vulnerable populations, because that's what I'm passionate about. Our kids, have learning disabilities. That's what we do. We're in the jails. We're helping people get second chances, teaching them
Yeah.
skills. So
Yeah.
whether it's the human trafficking, domestic violence, animals, whatever it is, it's going to be something, with a vulnerable population.
Yeah. I love that. So, if our listeners would like to connect with you or maybe ask you for coffee, how can they connect with you?
Yeah, so probably the best way is my email. So I'm a little bit more old school than, all the social media stuff. So if you do B Pello at Team SEMS, SEMS, that's going to be the best. I'm on my phone and computer all the time. And I would love to, however I can help, new entrepreneurs, people looking to transition, or, how to get involved in the community. I definitely believe that if you want to grow your business, you need to impact the community. And so I would love to help people, get engaged and do those types of things.
Mhm. Yeah, that's amazing.
So
Well, thank you so much for sharing. With that, we conclude another episode of The Thought Garden. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to follow us on Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, and social media. We'll be sharing more inspiring stories. If you have a story to share or know someone who does, you can reach out to us at rosarium.work or on our socials. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time on The Thought Garden.
thank you.